I remember when I was a little kid, growing up in a small village in Madeira. My mom and dad worked really hard. My dad was a gardener, and my mom worked as a cook. We didn't have much money, but what we did have, we shared as a family. Life was tough, but the love and support from my parents was always there. I would always think about football, and I had this belief that one day I'd be playing in big stadiums where the whole world would see me. When I was young, I used to play football with my friends on the streets. We didn't have the best footballs, but we made do with whatever we had. Sometimes it was an old worn ball or even the cover of a shoe for a goalpost. It was tough, but I learned how to fight for every moment, and that's what made me love the game even more. Every time I kicked the ball, it felt like I was taking a step towards my future. I remember when I was just 8 years old, I started going with my dad to play for Endorimia, a local club. It was my first team, and that's where I began to get better. Every practice, every game, I knew I was getting closer to my dream. I didn't have a lot of resources, but my passion was enough to drive me. Every day was a chance to get better, and I couldn't let that go to waste. When I was 12, I made a big decision. I left my family and moved to Lisbon to join Sporting CP's academy. It was tough to be away from home, but I knew it was what I had to do if I wanted to make my dream a reality. My parents were always supportive, even though they didn't have much. They always encouraged me to keep going, to never give up on what I loved. I was just a small town kid, but in my heart I had a huge dream. Football was my life, and I never hid that dream. It was all about working hard every single day, never settling for less, and always believing that no matter where I came from, I could make it to the top. When I was 12 years old, I had to make one of the toughest decisions of my life. I had to leave everything I knew, my family, my friends, and my home in Madeira. It wasn't easy. I loved being with my family, but I knew that if I wanted to achieve my dream of becoming a professional football player, I had to make sacrifices. The opportunity to move to Lisbon and join Sporting CP's academy was something I couldn't let slip away. I remember saying goodbye to my parents, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I was just a kid, and leaving my home felt like stepping into the unknown. I was going to be away from the people I loved, and it was scary. But I believed in myself, and I knew that I had to give everything I had to reach my goals. My parents, even though they were sad to see me go, supported me fully. They told me to follow my dreams and work as hard as I could. Living in Lisbon was different. I wasn't just a boy from Madeira anymore. I was part of a professional football academy with a lot of talented players. The competition was fierce, and there were times when I felt like giving up. It wasn't just about being good at football, it was about adapting to a new life, living away from my family, and adjusting to a higher level of play. But I never let these challenges break me. Every day I pushed myself harder than ever before. The sacrifice wasn't just emotional. I was away from my family for long periods, and there were moments when I felt lonely. There were times when I wanted to go back home, but I always reminded myself why I was there. I wanted to be the best, and to do that, I had to make these sacrifices. Every hour of training, every day spent away from home was all part of my journey. I learned early on that success wasn't going to come easily. It would take hard work, sacrifice, and determination. And even though it was tough at times, I knew that everything I was doing was for the bigger picture, to make my dream come true. When I first joined Sporting CP's academy, I quickly realized that talent alone wasn't enough. I was surrounded by some of the most talented young players in Portugal, and the competition was fierce. Everyone wanted to make it to the top, and if I didn't put in the work, I knew I wouldn't stand out. From that moment, I promised myself that I would work harder than anyone else, no matter what it took. I woke up every day with one goal in mind: to improve. It wasn't just about being good at football, it was about being the best. I pushed myself in every training session, whether it's working on my speed, my finishing, or my ball control. I knew that the small things mattered just as much as the big things. Even when no one was watching, I would practice extra, running laps, doing drills, anything to get better. If I wasn't practicing, I was thinking about football. It became my obsession. When I was younger, I was known for my work ethic. I wasn't satisfied with being good enough. I wanted to be exceptional. I would stay after practice, even when everyone else went home, to work on things that needed improvement. I didn't care if it was raining, or if I was tired, or if others were already resting. I wanted to be a step ahead of everyone. And I knew that meant pushing myself when others would quit. My mentality was simple: if I wanted to be the best, I had to put in more work than anyone else. At Manchester United, things didn't change. If anything, I raised the bar. Playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world meant the pressure was on and the stakes were higher. But that didn't scare me, it motivated me. Every training session was a chance to prove myself. I wasn't just training to play for Manchester United, I was training to become the best player in the world. I constantly worked on my weaknesses, refining my skills, getting stronger and faster. I knew that the hard work I was putting in would eventually pay off. This kind of dedication didn't stop when I joined Real Madrid, Juventus, or the national team. It's the same mentality that has carried me throughout my entire career. Every day is an opportunity to get better, and I'll never stop working as hard as I can to be the best. It's the dedication that's got me here, and it's the same dedication that keeps me going. When I first joined Manchester United, I was just a young player with big dreams. I had the talent, but I knew that I still had a lot to learn. The moment I walked into the dressing room, I was surrounded by legends. Players like Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, Roy Keane, and many others who had been at the top of the game for years. I knew that if I wanted to become the best, I had to learn from them. These were players who had won everything, who understood what it took to succeed at the highest level. I was in awe of their experience, but I also saw an opportunity to grow by watching them, asking questions and learning from their professionalism. Ryan Giggs in particular was someone who had enormous influence on me. The way he carried himself, the way he played with such intelligence and precision, it was something I admire. Giggs was a master of the game, and I learned from him every day. He taught me the importance of staying humble, even when you're at the top. Giggs had already won so many trophies, but he never stopped working. That was the kind of mentality I wanted to adopt. Paul Scholes was another player who had a huge impact on me. His passing, vision, and ability to control the tempo of the game were qualities I knew I needed to incorporate into my own play. Scholes wasn't the fastest or the strongest, but his intelligence and technique were second to none. I realized that it wasn't just about speed or power, it was about having the right mentality and making smart decisions on the field. He taught me how to read the game, how to make the right pass at the right moment. Roy Keane was the captain, and his leadership was something I respected deeply. His intensity, his focus, and his ability to inspire others on the pitch were remarkable. Keane was the heart of the team, and he showed me what it meant to be a true leader. He wasn't afraid to demand the best from his teammates, and that's a quality I carried with me throughout my career. Watching him lead by example, I learned how to be more vocal and take responsibility for the team's success. The lessons I learned from these players, from Sir Alex Ferguson, and from the entire Manchester United squad were invaluable. They pushed me, challenged me, and taught me how to become not just a great player, but a great professional. And I've carried those lessons with me throughout my career, using them to elevate my game to new heights, whether Real Madrid, Juventus, or with the Portugal national team. From the moment I stepped onto the pitch at Manchester United, I knew that the pressure would always be there. I wasn't just playing for any club, I was playing for one of the biggest and most successful teams in the world. Expectations were sky high and everyone was watching, waiting for me to deliver. At first it's overwhelming. The weight of those expectations was heavy, but over time I realized something important. The pressure wasn't something to fear, it was something to embrace. I remember my first season at United. I was young and I was surrounded by players who were much more experienced than me. The media, the fans, everyone had high hopes for me, and I knew they were all expecting me to make an immediate impact. There were moments when I doubted myself, when I felt like I wasn't living up to the hype. But every time I faced that pressure, I decided not to shrink from it, but to use it as fuel. I worked even harder. I pushed myself more. Every challenge became an opportunity to prove myself. As I moved to Real Madrid, the expectations only grew. At Madrid, you're expected to win everything, every season. There's no room for failure. I knew that if I didn't perform at the highest level, the pressure would only get heavier. But instead of letting that pressure break me, I thrived under it. I realized that pressure was a sign that people believed in me. They believed in my abilities, and that was the biggest compliment I could get. It made me work even harder. In those moments of intense pressure, I would remind myself of why I started playing football in the first place. It wasn't just to win trophies or to be in the spotlight, it was because I loved the game. That love for the game gave me the strength to handle the pressure, to block out the noise, and to focus on what mattered. When I stepped onto the field, I didn't think about the critics or the expectations. I just thought about the game, about how I could give everything for my team and how I could help them win. The pressure never goes away, it's always there, no matter what club I play for or what competition I'm in. But I've learned to take that pressure and turn it into something positive. It pushes me to become better every day. It drives me to be the best version of myself, and that's what has kept me going throughout my career. For me, football is not just about winning trophies or breaking records, it's about always growing and improving. From the moment I started playing, I knew that I could never be satisfied with where I was. Every season, every match, I have one goal: to be better than I was the day before. Even when I achieved success, when I won titles or earned individual awards, I never allowed myself to feel like I had reached the top. The top is never a place you settle in. It's a place you keep climbing toward. When I first arrived at Manchester United, I was full of potential but had a lot to learn. I worked tirelessly to develop my skills, and that hard work paid off as I began to make my mark. But I knew that staying at that level wasn't enough. I wanted to improve my game. That's when I started focusing on every detail: my physical fitness, my mental toughness, my technical skills. I pushed myself every day to be faster, stronger, and more skilled than the day before.